Okay. Good morning. Welcome to Employment and Rapid Rehousing. So we have a packed day today, so let's get to it. What do we got here? Good morning, all. Okay. So here we go. So welcome. You see some winter activities there. I hope you're looking forward to some of them. You also see a surfboard if any of you going to someplace warm. And skating. I'm assuming you all put your skating outfits on and go tool around the ponds, right, David? Or sit by a fire with a good book. So just think about being there for a minute, just to sort of clear the deck, wherever you like to do in the winter. So I'm Andrea White. This is Liz Isaacs. We're both from Housing Innovations. This is Carl Reynolds, who is from Columbus House and works as the employment and benefits manager. So he's going to talk a little bit about this. And some of you have gotten a chance to hear Carl before, and it's always great. And so we're really looking forward to it. So we're going to talk a little bit about the goals for the session. We're going to talk about housekeeping. Please keep your cameras on as much as possible. Put your name as you would like to be addressed in the box below your name. And we love interaction, right? You know that. Just raise your hand, unmute, talk, put it in the chat, whatever you're most comfortable with, do that. And then put your name in the chat, your agency location, and what your favorite winter activity is. This is called a clear the decks question. It's to get people thinking about stuff. And okay. So what do we got here? Liz has put the slides in the thing. Hi, Ida. What do you like to do? Wait for winter to be over? So Sue Garcia wants to hibernate. I don't blame you.
I'm with you, Sue.
It's not supposed to be that cold this year, though. Okay. All right. So just think about being there. It's fine. So we're going to talk about employment and financial management. We're going to do a brief introduction. Then I'm going to introduce Carl Reynolds. And he's going to talk to you a little bit about the employment program and some of the key elements of the employment program that he's seen. Then we're going to talk about motivation and making the link to employment, which is a big part of the case manager's job. And once again, right, you don't have to do all the employment work, but we need to get people ready to go into employment. And then Liz is going to talk a little bit about the resource guide we put together. It's not complete. We're going to need some input from you all for employment and financial management skills. And then we're going to close it up. So we're going to launch a quick poll. How long have you been working in the rapid rehousing program? And there's several choices. It's under 1 year, 1 to 2 years, 3 to 7 years. Wow. Okay. So we've got 32, which is about 80%. I'm going to end the poll. I'm going to share the results. So the big number is 3 to 7 years. There are 3 people who've been there in rapid rehousing for over 7 years. That's great. And 7 people 1 to 2 years, and 9 people who have been here under 1 year. So we've got a lot of mixed experience here. So that's really helpful. Thank you. Okay. So we've got some people putting their names in the chat. This is really important because you guys want to talk to each other. Alexis, I'm with you. Staying warm and cooking. Baking. Yep, that's all warm. Cooking. Reading a good book. I don't like the cold, so I love to pray for no snow. I'm with you. Okay. So everybody's got a plan. Movie night and hot cocoa and hibernating. So nobody wants to go outside and put on your skating outfit. Okay. All right. So this is just basically a review. So rapid rehousing is a project for persons experiencing homelessness that includes time-limited rental assistance and service. So we've got to always reinforce that this is time limited. You can only pay the subsidy for so long. It's 6 to 12 months, but we're going to try to get people out as soon as possible. And their goal is to obtain safe, adequate housing as quickly as possible and support long-term retention. That does not mean they have to stay in the same place they were originally given. They can work up. And a matter of fact, the time in rapid rehousing may be spent clearing up debts, increasing their employment, which is what we want, so that they have more, and building a landlord reference so they can make other choices as far as housing. So rapid rehousing should give you more choices, which definitely where increasing income comes in. Increasing income includes skills and resources to increase income and manage current income, right? And manage their post rapid rehousing tenancy. That's why we put managing income together with this, because people have got to learn how to do it. Right? And there are resources to help you with that. Okay. So what does rapid rehousing require and ask people to do, and they should know this from the shelters, is to either increase income and skills in order to maintain housing and develop resources that can help them and continue their support in housing. It can be either through benefits or employment, but both is time consuming and both are specialized skills. So we're going to need some resources. We're not expecting you to be huge benefit specialists or huge employment specialists, but we expect you to know enough about employment programs and benefits programs if they need help with that to get them connected. So we want them to be able to manage life as case management ends. So that's very important. And that it's important to know that case management and rapid rehousing is not there to solve their every problem that led to homelessness. But we're going to teach tenants how to ask for help, and we're going to get a network of care that will help them through. We're also going to teach people problem-solving skills and how to consider their options. That's the big task of rapid rehousing. So I'm going to turn this over to Carl, who will speak a little bit about his employment program and how to connect people to benefits, and also how to connect people to resources to increase your income and what they supply. So he's got some real tips, and we've heard him before, and we're really looking forward to it. Thanks, Carl.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, so again, Carl Reynolds at Columbus House, as it was mentioned, the manager of the Employment and Benefits program here. I've actually had the honor of developing the Employment Services program here some years ago now. And, and so in part, it was actually when it was being told to me, when I'm hearing out in the community that this right here couldn't happen, it wasn't going to happen because of the challenges and everything. Myself, sitting down with individuals and listening to them, realize that anyone who say they want to work should at least have an opportunity to work. And so with that being said, I started, going out, talking to employers. But before I did that, I built relationships with the individuals that I was serving, building that trust. When they realized that I really cared about them, then they were more open to listen to me. It's building that trust. And so, with that right there, and then listening to them, because see, at the end of the day, before they want to know how much you know, they want to know how much you care. And so going out and developing the jobs and everything, creating jobs, talking to employers and all of those things, I realized I had two customers on my hand. Never ever in all the years that I've been doing this have I ever, except through an email, through someone who works in this field, have I ever addressed an individual that we serve as a client or as a consumer, because they are people first. And so they're individuals. And again, this right here helps to build that relationship with the individuals, because they realize that you see them as someone. and so, and not looking at them as their situation first, as most people would say, homeless people. And so it's not homeless people, it's individuals who are experiencing homelessness, or now the terminology is used now is unhoused. And so understanding how that work and the importance of that. And so again, going out and job developing into the community and talking to the employers and talking with the individuals and seeing what it is that they want to do for work, listening to them. It's so important. And I think, I know that a missing component to all of this and this engagement is that because of the turnover, motivational interviewing training has not been really happening like it used to. And the ones that do happen, and it's nothing wrong with it, but it's been pretty much all clinical. And so therefore it can be challenging for individuals who are taking that training. And that training is huge, because that training is going to help from the first day you sit down with an individual and talking about employment, because it's creating change thinking and having them to be able to speak what it is that you want them to do, but then them looking at it as their own idea, not something that you're putting on them. And so once we have, and it's happening like I said, very quickly, once they get comfortable, especially in today's time, when they get comfortable, or when they, get situated in this situation, more so in the shelter environment, it becomes a little more challenging when it comes to the employment, because they're starting to get comfortable, where if you can catch them and get them in the very beginning, that's why I always say move quickly before they get comfortable. They want out of that situation. When they come in, they want out. And so if we can get them out of that situation and talk to them and explain to them how they can come up out of that situation. You have some people who are going to say they want benefits, but yet they're able to work. So we have to be good listeners. We have to be very observant. We have to talk to them, engage with them, and see what it is that they really want to do. And someone who said they want a job, we focus on job retention. We don't just focus on a job placement and have somebody come right back to us. We're looking at job retention, because we want to find out that job that's going to work for them, so that when they get that job, they're happy with that job and they can continue to move on. Then they can start focusing on long-term goals. But right now, when they come in, I believe that sometimes we put too much on the individuals, because they're in survival mode. And so it's housing and it's employment and it's this and it's that. Let's find out and listen to them and see what it is that they want. But then again, the motivational interview, because most people that come in today are looking for housing. We know that. We also know that there's a shortage of housing out there. So rapid rehousing is not as rapid as it once was when it first started, right? And so therefore it becomes a slower moving process with the individual. So we have time. And when the handoff from the case manager to the employment team, case managers, it would be very helpful if case managers stay connected. And the reason why I say that is because once they start looking, they want to work. There's a window of opportunity, and the window of opportunity is closing. It's not widening itself. It's closing. And that means that if we don't start moving them along fast enough, then it's not going to happen. And so they want to know, again, that we're listening to them. Active listening is a skill, and it's a skill that someone is clearing their throat. Yes. And so, but anyway, so it's really motivating the individual and talking to them, and listening and, asking them, not so much how they got there, but how fast do they want to get into housing? How fast do they want to come up out of their situation? Then that's when it opens up an opportunity to start talking about a faster way, employment, right? And so when we do that, then they can, so now we have their ear and, asking them questions, what will having a job do for them? What does that look like? And then they're going to tell you, and they say, what type of job do you want? And I use this as an example when I give presentations. Somebody might say, I want construction, but yet there's no jobs in that field. So I want to know, what is it so appealing about construction that you want that job. And so then they say, well, I like working with my hands, or I like working outside. So now it's getting them to start thinking outside of the box of construction and other skill sets, that they have. And so now we can start focusing on those jobs if the construction is out there. So it's always about what is it that is so appealing to them about the job that they say they want. And there are so many jobs out there. And then you have some people who say, well, I don't have my high school diploma. Where there's we can let them know, well, you can go get your high school diploma, but we can still help you to find a job right now while you're going to get your GED. Again, it's keeping them motivated and keeping them thinking thinking employment, because at the end of the day, that, which I get and I understand housing first, the employment piece is what's going to move them the quickest. Not a voucher, it's not guaranteed. Not Social Security, it's not guaranteed. And at the end of the day, they're going to be more influenced by the last people they talk to. So that is even more reason why we must stay engaged with them throughout the process and keep talking to them, because when they go lay their head down, or with others who are in a similar situation, they're going to hear something different than what you're saying to them. And so therefore, the more engaging that we are with them about the employment, then the better off, things could be. And so we need to focus on the here and now. A lot of times when I say that they're in survival mode, they're looking to find a place to lay their head. They already know that there are vouchers out there. Most people that come in, I'm gonna speak to Rapid Rehousing, because Rapid Rehousing, we as employment got involved in 2020. It was a very fast pace situation that we had found ourselves in, and along with the case managers. So therefore, case managers really didn't have the opportunity to build relationships with the individuals that was coming through the program, because it was happening so fast. And so it was making it a little more challenging for us as employment to know a little bit more about the individuals as they were being referred to our program. But again, it's listening to them. It's also encouraging them, letting them know that you can do it. Let's be their biggest cheerleader, and keep them motivated. You can do this, and then we can start sharing some stories about individuals who were in their same situation, and how good they're doing and how they've come up out of their situation, and if the individuals who were once unhoused are willing, though they're really their peers. And so who better to listen and hear from than someone who has been there, done that, to motivate them, and to have them to say, well, you can do it. I did it, you can do it. I understand how challenging it is, but I can tell you, I got into housing a whole lot faster by getting me a job. And so with that right there being said, there are a lot of resources out there. There's a ton of resources. I would say this right here: be careful of throwing programs out at the individuals that we're serving, because a lot of them are programmed out. They're looking for a job, not something that's going to take a month or something to that aspect to be able to obtain employment. They're coming, they're saying they want it. So we have to move quick. Like I said, that window of opportunity is closing. And so another training, things that they don't want to do if we're not listening, is going to cause them this drawback. And then another thing with the employment, the challenge, one of the biggest challenges have been, even with Rapid Rehousing, once someone is housed, the engaging. But once we can get them engaged, oh boy, I always say, individuals who want to work, I would say we probably have about a 90% placement rate with those who really want to work, right? Those who say they want to work. But then, you end up with some who we all know need to work, but how can we get them to see that? How can we get them to own that, and not it being our own, putting that on them, but them hearing themselves say that. And so employers are out there, and it's talking to the employers. It's really talking to the employers, going out there. Me, myself, I don't go out and advocate for an individual. I go out and I sell a program. you know, and so I'm the representative of that program. So how I carry myself, you know, matters when I'm out in the community talking to employers, you know, and things of that nature. You know, it's me myself. If I'm representing a program, an employment program for individuals, already knowing all the barriers that they have, I'm going out, even though I'm advocating for a program, I'm going out as if I'm going out on an interview, as I'm going out job hunting, meaning that I'm going to dress the part. You know, every time I go out, you know, I'm dressing the part. I want them to take me seriously and realize that I am very professional. Not that people who don't dress that way are not professional, but this is the way that they see it, you know. And so I want them to understand that people who might have legal histories, might be dealing with other issues, you know, to me, that's your best opportunity there, because doors are not opening up so fast for them. And once they get that, they're going to be the ones that show up on time. They're going to be the ones that not always on their cell phone texting when they're supposed to be working. You know, those are the ones who are going to be grateful, you know. And so when you're talking to employers, you know, about those things and everything, and then also let them know that, you know, they're being focused. And I understand people who don't have a legal history, but those who have a legal history at one point didn't have one either, you know. And so letting them understand that, you know, someone that you might hire that don't have a history might be a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. At least you know what you have, you know, and getting them to buy in. You know, employers, and they start buying in. A lot of people have gotten jobs over the years. A lot of people, you know, I've seen lives change. You know, who would have ever thought that someone who can only communicate through ASL can get a job in a university, you know, at one of the universities where they can only communicate by sign language. That's it. And when I went and I was talking with the director, because now I have a relationship, so now I'm pushing the envelope. Yes, I am. And so I was, but again, this individual wanted to work, and again should have an opportunity. And so when I went in and I explained the situation, you know, and so, and they were, oh no, that's going to be a safety issue. No, it's not. Well, why is it going to be a safety issue? Because they can't hear if there's a fire. You got lights and everything that's going to go off up in here. If they see people fleeing, then they're going to flee too, you know. And so I mean, that's how it is. And so anyway, so they end up saying, well, you know what, bring the person. Brought the person there. First month they got employee of the month. So now the employer sending me emails, because this is the way the jobs comes to me. You know, that's the way most of the jobs are, because of the relationships. You know, I establish relationships with these employers and I build a trust and everything. And so when they hired the individual and everything, and now this individual right to this day still gets 1 hour a week to teach sign language to all of his colleagues so that they could better communicate with him. And he saved up enough money to be able to send and have his wife and his daughter, to get a lawyer and have his wife and his daughter come here from the Dominican Republic. Got his own apartment. Then I get a phone call, you know, from Colonial Toyota. Who would have thought? You know, he's in there communicating with them. He's writing it down and everything. And so they call him after, oh yeah, he's great, you know. And then some of the workers at this particular university, the next time I went there, they said, yeah, so-and-so got a brand new car. I said, yeah. I said, isn't that awesome? And then they said, yeah, but he came in here and it was probably about November, beginning of December. And everybody heard was this loud music coming onto the compound. So everybody was wondering where it was coming from. It's this individual, same individual who can only communicate through sign language, is riding down onto the compound to go park his car with his music all the way up, windows down, everybody looking, and they start pointing because now they realize who it was, and he giving everybody the thumbs up, you know. And so again, it's believing in the individuals and being the biggest cheerleaders and keep them motivated, because I'm gonna tell you right now, you know, there are more people who want to work in this situation than who don't want to work. But it's the challenges that, not even say challenges, but sometimes we can put too much on the plate up front for them, you know. And there have been times when someone has gotten a job and knowing that they've been in survival mode for so long that when they got the job and a referral came to me, I stayed in communication with them, but I didn't even bring up employment in the first month. Because, you know, for me, I say, you know, this is going to be your honeymoon. This your honeymoon right here. I'm gonna let you go ahead and really get to enjoy and feel this. And you know, but you have to pay attention because some people you might have to get them moving right away. But then some you can have them, you know, get because now they're saying, wow, this person right here, you know, it's not forcing nothing on me, it's not pushing, you know, and so it's like I'm listening, you know, and that right there is the key element to motivating people to wanting to work, and also employers listening. You know, say what it is that they're looking for. I always tell an employer I can do a better job than they can on their turnover. You know, so and I try to prove that. You know, but it's so important that we believe in the individuals. And I understand with the case managers, I believe me, I know how it is, that it can be challenging because once you know move this person right here into employment services, you're on to the next and on the next and on the next. And it's kind of hard to really stay engaged with that person and until they come and meet again, you know, but it will be best that if we can, you know, employment and the case managers can sit down together with an individual so that the individual can know that we are a team. But then the best part about it is they're part of the team. You know, so it's so important to have that collaboration where case managers and employment services team can sit down together and know, because if not, sometimes it's going to be a challenging for the employment team because some people is just looking for housing. And so we can work together, you know, and it does happen. So I'm not saying that it doesn't happen because, you know, we work very well with case managers to allow individuals and to help and assist them to get jobs and everything. But the more that we do that, the better off the individuals will be, the better off the program will be, you know, and better off the community will be. And so I know that people are probably looking more about employment, but I just wanted to talk about how to engage with the individuals, because the employment piece that'll come, you know. And what I will say to the case manager, get to know your communities. It is so important to get to know your communities so that way you'll know. So when you're making a referral to a resource, you know who it is and what it is that you're making a referral to. Because if it's a bad place, rest assured, those who you have not met yet that are on their way are going to know or hear about that place because they communicate with themselves. They are a community within. And so get to know the community, get to know the resources, get to know the players and the people that are involved, especially with this population that we work with. Because they you know, what I would call, they have, you know, many barriers, you know, and if the more barriers that we can eliminate for them, then the better off they will be. There are some employers where I go in with the individual, I sit in on the interview. And the employers have allowed that. Why? Because that is where most people loses the job, at the interview. And so I get to go in and they forget to say something and I'll bring it up. And then they jump in and then they keep going, you know. And then there's some places, even colleges, universities, you know, employers where the interview is completely eliminated. In the beginning, when I developed the program, you know, I caught a lot of flat behind that, where you're not teaching them how to be able to do it on their own. The interview might have been eliminated, but the individual I'm serving don't know that. So they're still being asked questions. But the interview process, because the interview is where most of our folks, us, and I'm gonna leave you with this right here, just so everybody can really understand the employment services program dealing with this population. When I'm out there talking to employers, or my team is out there talking to employers, we're pushing and serving, we're pushing a program that serves individuals who are experiencing homelessness or who are unhoused. And when we go out and we're trying to help and assist them to obtain employment, their number one challenge or competition are people like yourselves. So just know that when we go out advocating for the folks that we serve, it's you who they're competing with. People who might not have legal histories, people who might not have any barriers, people who probably live in a stable environment, people who probably had their own transportation. And so this is who we're advocating. And I'm trying to, no pun intended, but I'm trying to say that the people that I serve are better workers than the people that I work with. I know that ain't, that ain't always the case, but that's what I advocate because I'm really pushing the envelope. And so this is what I do. I have the utmost trust in anyone who say that they want to work. I will go to bat. And as I was talking earlier, it's who I am. When I get up in the morning, I want to make a difference in somebody's life today. That's what it's about for me. And I even go as far as saying that when I leave this earth, that on my stone, it's going to have sunrise, it's going to have a date. It's going to have sunset, it's going to have a date. But in the middle, there's a hyphen. What is that hyphen going to speak about me? What is it going to say about me? How many people have I helped? What type of life have I lived? What changes have I made? That's my purpose. And that's why I do what I do, as challenging as it may be. And it has become even more challenging, but I love what I do. And it does, and because I love what I do, it's not really work. Some people think I'm crazy when I say that this right here is part of my self-care. And so I just want to put that out there. And anyone who gets up in the morning or lay down at night and say, I got to go to work, take the O out and put an E in there. So instead of saying, I got to go to work, say, I get to go to work. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have some comments here. So Yolanda said, I think we have to believe in people until they can believe in themselves, which was a key element that you talked about. And Megan says, very informative. Yolanda says, I agree. Ernst says 1,000% having insight and knowledge on the community, right? Yolanda says, amen, Dr. Reynolds. Okay, wait a minute. Let me see if I can get some of these. Great info. Go to great info, Mr. Carl. Thanks, Carl. Great info. There we go. Yes. Okay, let's see what this one says. Absolutely, Ernst. We must become resource brokers for our clients who do not involve knowing the community. That does involve knowing the community. Being able to build rapport with a client is half the battle. Absolutely. So this really hit with people. I want to pull a couple of per person. One is knowing the person and knowing the community. Another one is confidence that you talked about. And that goes to believing in the person before they believe in themselves, and also identifying what they want and what they're good at. Because if somebody's good at something, you're right, it's not going to seem like a job. Connecting it to housing, absolutely. You also mentioned peer support, letting them see other people who have succeeded, right? I mean, that's a big one. And sometimes it comes out like, Liz got a job. If Liz can get a job, I can get a job, right? So it makes people believe in themselves. Another issue you said is be careful about training programs because they've been programmed out. That is really true. And you said a really interesting thing about GEDs, which is that get them a job first and they can work on the GED at the same time. So my question is, do you think that might work with a program who has a training program? Maybe they can have a job part-time and then work in the training program. And so they can work on two things at once. Does that work?
You're asking me that question?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it depends on the program. It depends on the people in that program.
Right.
And so when we, so training programs, they're focused on their training, right? And so That's what they're really focused on. And so again, to even get them to think outside the box,
Yes.
it's so critical to the people that we serve. It's not just about, again, some of these programs, it's about a number, right? And
Yeah,
so
you're right.
there's a program that I'm not even gonna say, but anyway, that I used to help out. I was going to say, well, that I had help develop
Yeah.
here in the city,
They don't
and
get help
so
because their business closed.
bringing them in, and so referring our folks to this program and everything. And then I started, as I'm talking to the people that we serve that I've been sending, then I realized that this program was pretty much had the mindset of the people before I developed the program, the employment
Yeah.
service, that they were just using them as a number of intakes, people that was coming into the program, but our folks were not being the ones that was being sent out for the jobs. Right. And so when I
Oh,
realized
Lord.
that, I stopped sending, and they started, reaching out to me, and then I sat
Yeah.
down and let them know that, we work with people,
Right.
and so and these are people that are struggling, and you're not going to hit your numbers off the back of our folks and have them, keep going around and around thinking that they're going to have it's like almost on a roller coaster. You get the hopes up, then they're down, then they're up, then they're down. No, let's keep them going in one direction, even if it's in increments. If that means that I'm going to do some hand holding, and I'm going, as I help them along, because everybody's not there. It's almost like a child when you first teaching them how to ride, not calling them children, but when you're teaching them how to ride a bike, you're inching up the training wheels without them knowing it, so they could build their confidence. And so when you walking hand in hand with them, you're letting go of one finger at a time. And before you know it, they're walking on their own, because their confidence has increased. But back to your question, it depends on the programs.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
And the individuals in the program where, yeah. So I'm being careful with my words right now, because you have me.
No, I think you're exactly right. And it's come up before that, for instance, these pipeline programs that in 6 weeks train people to work at electric boat, right? But if that may be something that's their long-term goal, but people need to work first, right? So before they participate in the 6-week program, and then they decide if that's what they really want. And I think that, I always thought that if people made money, right, and absolutely made money at a job, that's its own motivation. And I think that you're right. We got to start with a job.
Absolutely. And to add to that, Andrea, when individuals go out,
Yeah.
that's what they want. They want a job. They want to work. That's but then as they become comfortable, so we have to stay connected with each individual. That right there is key. It's so important. And I know it's very challenging.
Yeah.
I know how challenging it is, especially when you have a lot of folks out there who don't want to work.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I don't know. I'm still trying to put my finger on it, because when you have the American Job Centers and the Workforce Alliance don't even have enough people coming in through their doors no more, then something's wrong. And they have all the resources. They can pay for trainings and everything, and they have money they can't even give away.
Right. But sometimes that doesn't meet the need, right? So the big message I'm getting is you got to listen to people to figure out what the need is and make the match. And the match is very important.
Absolutely.
Okay. People have questions, comments. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Andrew.
I think one of the big issues with employment programs, Workforce Alliance, I think Unite CT has one too, is that, and you're 100% right about treating them like humans. They come through a program, they're required so much paperwork, so many hurdles, so much to prove before they even get any sort of assistance. And by the time they get assistance, they're burnt out already and with resentment. So I just see the bureaucracy of everything is just a giant barrier.
Absolutely, Andrew. It's good to see you as well, my friend. And what I will say is, I'm part of the South Central Workforce Development, which are heads of all of these right here programs that we're talking about, and some of their management staff. And so we all meet at least once a month, sometimes 2-3 times a month. And so we have gotten it to the point to where as we have an EEC program that we're trying to rev up and really get it going, that they're willing to accept a certificate from our EEC to eliminate some of that right there, bureaucrat, that paperwork, because they're entrusting in what we have established here at Columbus House as far as the employment service program, dealing with the demographic, right? And so, but you're right. I mean, the paperwork, there's a lot that can be said about that.
That's great.
I also have
And
some resources. I don't know if I should just send them to you, Liz or Andrea, or if you want me to call them off right now, I can, where some people can write them down and look it up.
How about do both? How about do both? So
Okay.
definitely send them to us. We'll put them in the list, but
All
tell
right.
people, because it's the thing is people need resources.
All right. So some of the links that you can actually go on to. It's not a big thing of mine. I'm more just like this right here is not. It's really not me. I like to do my presentations face to face in person. That's where my strength really is. But this right here worked too, because I'm able to reach so many people that otherwise probably wouldn't have happened, right? And so we know some of the links, which is the CT jobs, right? We know that's one. CT hires we know is another. Job portal, CT is another. Jobs, the number 2, careers is another. Job list is another. And then we know of Indeed. Those who are in the New Haven region, you have, for the hospital, you have ynhh.org /careers. And then in your respective cities and towns, you go onto whatever city or town it is, and you put .org jobs. And then you can have from all of those. So if you're in Hamden, if you're in New Haven, if you're in Waterbury, if you're in Hartford, wherever you might be, you put that city or town .org / whatever, jobs or careers, and so that's one. That's a big one, because that right there is local. And a lot of local cities and towns are starting to vest in our population so that they can minimize how many people are out on the street.
Thank you.
Do you still want me to
That's
send
very
it?
helpful.
Or did y'all write it
Yeah.
down too?
I wrote it down. I think I'm good. I'll
Okay.
book
You got
you
it?
up now, but
Okay.
thank you so much, Carl.
There are many more, but like I said, I personally go out. I like to look in the eye, face to face. Like I said, as if I'm going out on an interview or a job, job searching. I'm out there. It's most effective for me that way. But we'll take it this way too, right?
Yeah, nobody wants to say no to Carl, right? Dr. Reynolds, when Dr. Reynolds is out there, there are a lot of yeses. So yeah.
And I'm and being persistent. There's some no's. There's some no's. Listen, I'll share this right quick, and I'm not going to take up any time with it. But I can remember. Okay, I can remember an incident. This one place, it was a painting company. So I'm like, oh, this would be ideal for our folks. And so I go in and I'm talking about the painting and everything. And part of it is my fault. I didn't really do my homework and my research on this particular place because of how the big sign was and all of that and everything. And normally I'm doing all my research and everything about the company. But on this particular company, I go in and I'm thinking, I got some people who can paint. I got plenty of people. And he had asked me something and I didn't answer what he was looking to hear. And so he just yelled, he said, "Get out of here," and so I left and I came back, being persistent. And so after the third time, he told me to leave and he slammed the door and I couldn't get my foot out of the way fast enough. So the door caught my foot. So I hobbled around in the office about 3 days.
Oh,
But and during that time while I was waiting to go, because I went back, I started doing my research. And when I went back, he said, "You are stubborn." And he said, "But you know what? Because of your persistence," he said, "send me one." And at this time, I know what it is that they do. So I'm thinking painting with a brush and a roller, but it was really with the spray gun. So it was a different type of painting. And so just so happened there was someone that had some experience with auto body. And so I sent him. And everything, and it just took off from there, And so again, being persistent is also key, and not backing down, that's just how it is. Whatever it takes, go out. I got in trouble with my family, one time, I've shared this right here some years ago, many times actually. We'll go out to dinner, and because of what I do outside of here, when we go out, we patronize. I mean, it can be 25, it can be 50 of us, and so I want out, and knowing the party that we have and the size of it, I'm like, where's the manager? And because sometimes when you come in like that, they're not expecting that, right? And it's unannounced, and so they're not prepared. Things are moving slow. I want to talk to the manager, not to get on the manager, but to let the manager know, listen, I can see you need help. Here's my card. My card was almost like that commercial, the American Express. I don't leave home without it.
yeah.
And so, and then, my wife and my daughters, they said, my wife, hey, my daughter's dad, can we go somewhere without you, you still working?
No.
This is an opportunity right here, and so again, I live this.
It's great. Ernst has a comment. It says, think we start with a policy and program agreement. The client is able-bodied and has the ability to work, should be making the attempt to work. Yeah, requiring it probably is not what Carl is talking about. It's also, I think you're right about expectations. I think that shelters talk to people about subsidies and talk to people about housing, but they need to talk to people more about employment. And I think we can create the expectation without putting people in a box, right? So that I know it's frustrating when people say they don't want to work, but I think we're not good enough about creating the expectation that work is available and we will help them with work. And I think that's where we focus. What do you think, Carl?
So so there are so many different elements to that piece right there. And so I think one of the biggest ones is that, again, we're talking about the people who they're last dealing with, talking to, being around, that influence. And so many times, and this is another thing that I, when it comes up, I don't bring it up, but when they bring it up, I try to get in there any way I can. But one of the biggest things when it comes to that is that they have befriended someone who's on disability. Yes. And so they see that this person is on disability, and then they're watching them and they are around them. And then they're saying, well, I'm worse off than this person. If this person can get it, I can get it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but not realizing the paperwork that went along with them getting it that you don't know about. Right. Going to, seeking, whether if it's whatever type of help that they were getting, but you don't get to see all of that. You're just watching them. And they could be better now than they was when they first applied. But whatever you do, don't compare yourself to the next person.
Yeah.
So that right there has been a big one. Or they all know, and I think everybody on here knows that when someone is chronic, they're privy to a little bit more than someone who's literal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you have individuals that come in who are literal. And the truth be told, sometimes, not all, I'm hoping not all, not many, but some of them would do just enough to satisfy the case managers so that they can become chronic.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, these are the things that, and so again, and I don't get upset with the individuals, because at the end of the day, they're in survival mode. So it just, for me, is to be able to discern that. And how can I now engage in the MI to try and create change thinking, to get them to rethink their thinking?
Yep. So
Do you
we have
see
a question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
from Kathy. She says, but how should you respond when a client is presented with rapid rehousing termination forms? They state that the program doesn't require them to gain employment or increase income.
I think that's just what Carl is talking about, is people are going to do the minimum to meet requirements. This is much more than requirements. This is about, I get to go to work, right? This is about getting work they can get excited about. This is about that. And I got to say that if the conversation about employment and them not getting employed is only first visited when they're being terminated, that's a problem. And I think that we need to employ that housing problem solving. And very early on, when people are not working and they don't have the income, is start exploring alternate housing. Is that we have these options for you for employment, but if you don't want to do employment, here are some options for you. You might want to share housing. You might want to get a room. There are other less expensive options, right? But that giving people the impression that in rapid rehousing, you can stay in this 1-bedroom apartment that costs $1,500 a month, right? When you have no income is not realistic. And I think that people have got to make and you know what? If people are employed, they can not only keep the apartment, but they'll have money to do other things. And I think it's really working on those things, right? It's not about, but if people still are not increasing their income, then we have to talk to them about alternate housing, right? Because people cannot stay in rapid rehousing if they're not working on a plan, right?
Yes.
And it could be the plan that they design. It should be the plan that they design, but they can't stay in rapid rehousing if they're not working a plan.
And so now the question's going to come from me, right? Everybody throwing questions at me. So
Good.
So, right. And so how can this be addressed on a system level?
So that's
right?
a question.
Because the system created this.
Right. The system did create this.
So now how, and I say that, in a way that, again, loving what I do, and with everything that has happened since 2020, you find yourself doing 5 times, if not more than that, effort into being able to sustain. Right. And so, and keeping your staff motivated, right? So that they don't get discouraged or they don't get burnt out, and so it's going out and staying engaged and keeping everything afloat. And so I'll always ask that question though, is how can it be addressed on a system level?
Okay. So Kathy, you want to say something? I agree with you.
Yeah. Can everybody hear me? Can you hear
Yep.
me? Okay.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. Technology sometimes is iffy this morning.
Kathy, if you can turn on your camera, it'd be a big help to us because Carl's right. If we can see your face, it helps a lot.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to remove my desk and move the computer, the laptop.
Don't worry about it. Just ask your question.
But I'm gonna try real quick. Okay. Can you? No.
It's fine. Just ask your question.
Okay, so now I
There
understand
you are.
what we were talking about as far as when a client is presented with termination. The reason why I bring this up is because, it is very, very exhausting, and it is very, very overwhelming sometimes when you're working with a client, because of course at the beginning when you enroll a client, you discuss the expectations of the program, increasing employment, engaging in the community, and different types of housing options that are available. So, those conversations are definitely had, but when you find yourself having these conversations, then meeting with the client left and right, and the meetings become increased because participation is becoming less. When do you know when to cut off the cord? Let's say it's 3 months in and you're diligently working with the client 4 days a week. You're holding their hand, going to employment services with them. When do you reach the point to, I don't know, I guess types of outside the box thinking to address that? I do have a client that I've been working with him for about 4 months, and my only result was to bring him a termination letter, letting him know that he's not participating and not actively engaging. That was my verbiage. But then verbally, in talking to him, it was really focusing that he's not following through when it comes to employment services that we've offered. He had 3 type of job offers. 2 of them were guaranteed employment. He did not go. And he has a CDL. When I brought him his termination papers and he read it and he said, yeah, but none of this says that I have to have a job. So once it reaches that point, where would you, suggest that I go? Like, how do you suggest?
Well, what's his plan to continue to be in housing after rapid rehousing? What's his plan? Does he want a subsidy? What does he want?
So I asked him to just be honest with me. Is it that you want to get a voucher? Because he really does nothing. And he told me, and he said, I don't know. I said, well, this program is only 12 months long. When you get discharged, what are you going to do? Are you going to end up, going back into homelessness? Are you going to go with your family? He says, his family is not willing to support him. And I was like, okay, so you're willing to go back to homelessness? And he said, okay. That was his response. Okay.
Yeah, we don't want that. Right.
We don't want that.
So what's the problem with the jobs? Do you know?
He just doesn't want to work.
Why? So if I may, why doesn't he want to work?
To me, I believe it's that's what I believe. But then again, I've only known him for 4 months. I believe he does have severe mental disturbances that are going on, because he got shared housing through rapid rehousing because of his lack of participation in the shelter. So thinking that everything was going to be better for him once he moved in, it was not. The first day that he moved in, I had a job set up for him, an interview, guaranteed hire through our FOC Employment Center. And he kept saying he wanted to get his CDL. Well, he wanted to continue working on his CDL. And Monday came, no call, no show, and just told me that he did not go because he feels like jobs like those, although he is a CDL driver, jobs like that are for people who are criminals, basically. So I really didn't know what to say about that. So I was
But
like,
it happens, and then so what I've learned over the years, and it's not everyone, but there have been times when something similar where they'll come up with other excuses or other reasons why they don't want to, but then after really engaging with them, what I have found is that the reason why they didn't want to work, they're willing to work, but they want to work under the table, is because they owe child support. So there are underlying issues sometimes as to why, but yet they won't say.
they won't say.
And let's be honest, there are when we're dealing with this population too, there may be females that might share a little bit more with you than they will with me, the same way a male might share more with me than with you, and so again, I'm not saying that is the case, but I found that to happen, many times over. And then I was able to connect them with a program that was able to go in and advocate with them to bring down not to eliminate the child support, but to what would be required, as to how much they would have to come out of their pay so that they can feel like they're working for something, even though it is something, child support is something, but that they can take home so that they can be able to live a life, right? And not, yeah, that's a sensitive situation there. But anyway, what I found that to be the case quite a few times. That's why I asked, why did the person not want to work?
Yeah, sometimes I find that the mental health, because we are not mental health providers, we try to do our best, but sometimes I find when it comes that you come to the impasse of, their mental health, trying to understand, trying to, break through to that or tap into it, it really creates a major barrier in being able to have the client see themselves where you'd like them to meet the program needs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
So,
this individual, he doesn't want to do therapy. He stays in, I get complaints from his roommates. He stays in his room all day. He doesn't help clean up. He doesn't participate in the daily activities of, within their household. And that sounds like major, manic depression. Absolutely. But how do you really address someone when, the program doesn't actually require them to meet the needs of their personal growth to maintain housing stability?
and unfortunately, we're gonna run into people like that.
Yeah.
And again, it's not to give up on them. If they're there, we can always go back and revisit, but let's get some of that energy into those who are motivated to work, because if not, then we'll be spending all of our resources and all our time into someone who's very adamant. It does not mean give up on that person. It just means that we'll come back and revisit this person. But again, you was mentioning about discharging. So I don't, one thing I don't get involved with is operations. I stay in my lane, and I can try to help out in that way and give some advice. But there's so many different reasons why the people that we people do or say the things that they say or do.
It's frustrating. And you know what? Kathy's point about mental health is everybody goes into rapid rehousing at this point. And there's certainly people who have barriers that are presented by mental health. We're going to talk about mental health and mental health resources. But a big need that this group has is to get an assessment and figure out what's going on, because they're not clinicians, right? Most of them, right? So that get an assessment and figure out what's going on. And then we can use that and work as a team to figure out what works for that client. If they are having mental health issues that are interfering, maybe that is a priority, right? So let's figure that out. And so we are definitely going to talk about that next week, but that you hear the frustration is that, and it's true, some people are going to resist, and we're going to be persistent, but that's what we're going to talk about. We're also going to work on building the relationship and building the motivation, right? It's not just getting them into an employment program, it's getting the motivation. And I'm going to start talking about this, and you guys should, I'm going to do it quick. So here we go. Engagement, right? Carl talked about this better than I ever could. So we want to make sure that we talk to people, what their aspirations are, what they're good at, what they enjoy, right? I get to go to work, right? I agree with you. I mean, I did direct service for a lot of years. I still miss it. I will go back to it because I never felt I was working a day in my life. That's what I loved, right? And I felt like I was good at it. So those are things that are really important. So we want people to have that similar experience. We also want to talk about goal development. Is what are they hoping to get? And remember that money is a mood changer, right? Getting money for your work is really important to people. We want to do an assessment. We want to figure out, not only barriers, but what people's strengths are. And then we want to develop a plan. The aspirational goals, what people want their life to look like, have that conversation, let people dream a little bit. And you know what? The way you get there is employment. SSI is not going to get you to those aspirational goals, right? We're going to help people look at employment. We're going to connect income to housing stability and long-term goals. We're going to ask people questions, not like what do they use their current money for, but how much money do you need to live comfortably in housing? And have that be our goal. We're going to be familiar with the options. We're going to be clear about the support that people need from resources. We're going to work as a team. We're always going to be mindful of the timeline, and we're going to be prepared that some tenants may need you to accompany them to resources. Go with them, do a warm handoff. And then we're going to follow up with the resources because we are a team. There's some things we do better. There's some things that employment focus does better. This is the thing on a warm handoff. We've talked about this before. I want to bring up something that people had said before. It's a lot easier if the employment process, both the expectation for employment and also the getting help with employment, starts in the shelters. Because it sometimes takes people a long time. So we're going to make sure those resources are available in the shelter. We're going to share information. We're going to transfer some of that engagement. We're going to talk to people about asking for what they need because we have a relationship with them. And we're going to go with them. And as Carl said, he goes into the interviews with people. We're going to go into the interviews to any kind of employment connection we're going to go to if people need that. Not going to do the case studies because I think people have already brought that up, but you're welcome to take those. So we're going to talk a little bit. Liz is going to talk a little bit about resources. So this is a draft, right? And that, here we go.
Do you want to share it or do you want me to? Oh,
Here we go.
allow.
I'm going to share it. I think I'm going to share it. Maybe not. Is it a PDF? No.
No, it is a Word doc.
All right. Liz is going to share
You
it.
want me to share it?
Yeah.
Just make sure I have it up. Give me a sec. Do. Here we go. Are we all looking at something that says CT Employment Resources?
I am.
Okay. So Andrea and I had people have been sending us different resources. Carl just gave us a whole list, so I'm going to add Carl's. Someone else put in Dress for Success, which is a great resource, right? So if folks need to spiffy up their wardrobe, they can do that. And like Andrea said, this is a draft, so we would love, you guys can see what's here. Whoops. So move down. Struggling. This just tells you where these resources live. And then this part's important. So if you click on a link and it's broken, let me know. If you click on a link and it doesn't make sense and you want more information, I'm happy to dig in. And then if you have resources, would love to hear them. Eastern Connecticut's been great and has sent us, our friend Kathy Zoll and her folks over there have sent us some resources. Carl just gave us a whole bunch.
And Donald had a resource from the Eastern Connecticut. Hey, Liz, let me just
Yes.
say something.
Of course.
The reason that we're giving you guys websites as opposed to this is because websites get updated.
Yeah.
And we didn't want this to die with one document, right? So as programs change, we wanted to give you the website so you could get the newest information.
Exactly.
So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. And then this lives on the CT Boss website. So we will also make sure that link never gets broken so that as we update this, you can always use, and I'll put the link in the chat after we're done talking about this. And then this has some presentations from some of our friends at DOL, some things I think Carl maybe even mentioned. But some good stuff here, some stuff you probably looked at, some stuff that looked like it was new to me, some really specific stuff for maybe someone who's been dislocated, some stuff for youth and what that looks like in the state. You guys may be familiar with Demas's supported employment program, right, through BRS. Ellen, I'm forgetting her name, Econs, is that her last name? Super helpful. She's awesome. We've had her speak before and she's a great resource there. Unite CT has an interesting program where they're coupling rental assistance with a workforce training program. So that may or may not be relevant for some of your folks as they're leaving. As Andrea mentioned, money management. We've got some resources here so folks can kind of take a look at their financial skills and just information that might be helpful to people out there. Some workforce development and education opportunities. And then career exploration. I looked at this. No, I might change careers. No, it was fun to, it was fun to look at though. My next move in Occupation Online. So you get to kind of dream a little, which I always tell Andrea is one of my favorite thing that she talks about during these times is really to let people dream and then, you know, back into what's realistic, but just to have those conversations, you know, is someone an artist, is someone a caregiver where, you know, let them think big. And like Carl said, think outside the box, because it starts to excite people. And so I always like hearing about it. So I had fun on some of these websites with career exploration for, you know, folks to see what you're interested in and just look around. I bet there are a bunch that are like that. So people could Google. My friend Kathy Zoll and her team sent me all the different job search websites that they use. So Carl mentioned some of these too. And I love Carl's, which I'm going to add immediately, which is to how to find a job resource in your own town or city. That's fantastic, right? So that you can look locally, you have the name and job.org or what. I wrote it down, so I'll get it in there, right? And then a couple temporary job sites. So these, if you take a look at these, looks like they may have opportunities throughout the state. It's probably not the entire state, but a bunch of places in the state. People are looking for hospitality information. Again, our friends at Eastern sent some information. And I think that is it. So we would love for this to be a work in progress and for this to be something that's really helpful for people. So any feedback, even if you want to say like, oh my gosh, worst website ever, take it down. Awesome. Love to hear positive and negative. And then if people have great contacts places, great websites, even if it's really specific to your town or city, we'd love to have it so that we have something for each of the regions in Connecticut. Just a starting place or a place where folks are feeling like, hey, let me check something else out, share with their tenants and the folks that they're working with to say, hey, check out some of these websites and get people engaged.
I just wanted to say that talk to each other too. So in the community of practice, one of the things that Donald mentioned about the pipeline is it's 4 to 6 weeks of training, but people get a small stipend.
Mhm.
People want to work, right? And that can sometimes discourage people from participating. So I think taking Carl's advice and helping people get jobs right away, and then maybe if they find that they really like this work, maybe it's worth it to do a 4 to 6 weeks. 4 to 6 weeks sounds short to us, but it doesn't sound short to the people that we're in, and they've been programmed out. So, and as Donald said, having a very small stipend, though they help with other things, but having a very small stipend doesn't get it for some people. For other people, it works for them. So talk to each other too about what's been their experience with these and how they get help.
I have something to say. Could I say
Yeah.
something?
Of course.
Yes, of course.
I just wanted to share something that listening to everything that was being said, some of the practices that Carl has mentioned has actually taken place with me with Rapid Rehousing and my domestic violence clients. I had a client that was housed and they chose this particular place to move to. I just did the inspection. I sort of thought that it kind of been on the dirtier side, as far as not the cleanest I would have wanted to have, but they encouraged me that this is really, really what I want. And as I've sat there listening, like Carl was saying, and talking with the client and her children, what was said to me was, I'm trying to start my own cleaning business, and this will be a joy for me. And when she told me this and she shared it with me, I said, this is a great idea. I said, it could be like mommy and daughter or like mommy and me. And I said, you know what, when you get it together, let me know. And she did. So after she was housed, about 2 weeks later, she sent me the business card. And she said that if we knew of any landlords that were trying to rent to someone else and they needed to get the place cleaned up, that she could actually be a resource. And I said, that's a phenomenal thing. Get me the cards. And I said, I'll definitely pass them out. So I want to share that, again, listening to our clients and what their dreams are. That she probably would have did that as a side job, but now it's a business for her and her children. And they were at one point homeless themselves.
That's a great thing. And Khadija, it's a great example of really listening to what people say and thinking out of the box. That's a wonderful story.
Absolutely. Oh, I love a success story. See, I
Yeah.
told you guys, best for last in December, right? Everyone's success, feel good stories. We got feel good holiday stories and New Year stories. So good stuff.
And just, with as I was looking at the CT employment resource and
Oh, I'm sorry.
some of the trainings, you don't have to put it back up there, but some of the trainings and everything that training programs that are out there. One of the things that I've been pushing is that they but they should implement some type of remedial training with those same
Yep.
programs, because if someone is going 4 to 6 weeks of training, especially the people that we serve, and everything that's going on in their everyday lives, if they don't get that interview right away, how much of that training have they retained?
That's true.
And so that's something that's just like, if any of us decide to go back to school, some of us probably going to have to take some type of remedial because it's been so long ago.
Mhm.
And so it's no different from the people that we serving, who has a lot going on every single day, all day for the most part. And so if the places that are doing the trainings will implement some type of remedial to what they're already doing, so that people can come back and refreshen, up on some of the things that they have been taught, then I think that would also be beneficial, because sometimes it takes a while for them to land that interview, and how much will they retain?
Yep. That's a really good point. Yeah, it's got to work, right? And it's got to work for people. And if it doesn't work for people, then you're right. I mean, the homeless pipeline the internet has nothing on the homeless pipeline. If somebody hates a program, everybody knows it within 20 minutes,
Absolutely.
right? So that we need to make sure that this is working for people. People have questions. No? Someone just asked about getting a copy. I will throw the link in here. And then I know that you guys, again, super busy, but if you come across something, you don't have to do a formal write-up. You don't have to do anything. I'll make sure you guys, I think hopefully people have my email. I'll put it in here. Just send Liz a quick note. You don't even have to send me the right website. Just tell me what a program's called. Tell me, hey, Liz, check into this. Because we really would love this to be helpful and useful. So whatever way you guys can share information, that would be fantastic. And I'll put the link in. So you guys, the link is to the BOSS website, and the reason that that's there is so we can update it as more resources come in.
That last thing that went up, I just saw something about as a resource.
Money as a motivator.
Motivator.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yes, two things with that right there.
Yep.
Is why it's so important for us to get to know the individual that we're serving, because that's what we're doing. We're servers of the individual.
Yes.
We're serving the people that we're working with. We might not want to realize that, but we are. If they all were to decide to not utilize our services anymore, where does that leave us? Right. So we're servers. Yep. Also, money is a motivator, but then we still need to get to know our individuals, because money is also a trigger. Yes. So we need to understand that as well. So that's what I was just looking at. I'm like, money, yes. And it's also a trigger. And so you can have, and it's again, knowing the person that you work with, and staying engaged with them, because they get that job and they're doing overtime and everything, but we need to still be engaged with them during that process, because as soon as they get that first check. Yep. Yep. And that they will, but they could.
It could.
Yeah.
Carla reminded me about I had somebody I was working with, and they got a job and it was for cash. And I thought, oh no, this is going to be a disaster. And he got paid the first week and he did great. And he loved the job and he did all sorts of overtime and he got more money. And at about the 5th week, everything fell apart. So we had a little conversation after that happened and talking about, what does the job mean, that other stuff. And you know what he finally told me? He had drawn a line in his dresser drawer. And when the cash went up to that line, that's when he was going to celebrate.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't the first week, wasn't the second week. It turned out to be the 5th week when the cash reached that drawer. So I said to him, so what do we do? Get people to pay in bigger bills? What do you think? And he laughed. He laughed, which was good, which was what I was going for. And we figured out a system where he could celebrate, but it was, he could plan for the celebration, right? And celebration can be a lot of things. It doesn't have to be buying everybody drinks. It could also be buying people dinner. It could
Absolutely.
also be, but, appreciating his need to celebrate. So it took a while. And I was shocked. After the 5th week, I was relaxed. And that was a big mistake, right? I stopped talking about it. I was like, yeah, we got this. We're all right. Nope. So yeah, we never know, right?
We don't, it's so ironic. I was going back to the one with the money as the motivator, and then what else they had in there about the housing aspects. 2000, I never forget, 2010. There was an individual who, that's 2011, is when PTI first started, Pathways in.
Yeah.
And it was all wraparound. We were all in one location, and this individual had got a housing voucher, and they're supposed to go sign for their keys, to pick up the keys.
Mm-hmm.
The day that they're supposed to pick up the keys, the night before, they was incarcerated. And
Oof.
and so then, but they was back out, and
Good.
they reconnected with the, within a couple of days. And so then they reconnected with the case manager, and, so the case manager set up another day to go sign for the keys. Okay. Tomorrow's the keys, tonight, incarcerated.
Oh,
I think it
you never know.
It was about 3 days, they were back out. So
Mhm.
it happened a third time. So now they're talking about pulling the voucher. And so I was like, wait a minute, this right here is just too ironic that this is happening.
Right.
And this person is not getting in enough trouble to stay in for a period of time. They're out in a couple of days. And so I suggested that we have an all treaters meeting with the individual, everybody that's connected, everyone, even in the clinician, we all was connected.
Mhm.
And come find out that the person was sabotaging it because they were too afraid to live alone.
Sure. Sure.
So many reasons why. And so
It's a really good point. And it takes a while for people to share that information. People aren't going to give you all of that up front.
Yeah.
I mean, how long does it take you to share information? How close do you have to be? How much do you have to trust the person? And I think that that's a really big deal.
I think we're talking
Khadija
about,
says-
hi, everybody. I think we're talking about relationships.
Yep.
And as we develop relationships with
Yep.
folks, hi, everybody. So I think that's where we're at as case managers. We have that opportunity, really, like, I take away so much from our rapid rehousing trainings. And one of the things that we did, I think early on, was we talked about assessing and assessment.
Yep.
And early
Yep.
on, right? And you
Yep.
have the opportunity at that point, to assess and to be impactful and effective with people as you do a really thorough assessment. But I think you also have the opportunity to begin to build relationship and trust on that on that intake. And I do a 2-part intake. I don't get right straight to the paperwork because
Good.
I think my boss even, has approved that piece. But I do think it's important in building relationship because in building trust, people just don't want to come in and just start filling out paperwork, sign
right.
your life away and, oh, do this and you'll get that. They don't want to hear that. They've been hearing that, practically all their lives. And so that important piece for me to build relationship is to do that two part. We do a lot of talking at first. I ask a lot of questions. Sometimes I just let them rant, let them talk about disappointments or, what they've experienced in their life with other housing programs or whatever, incarceration, whatever it may be. And then I begin to build on those conversations. And they come back, and then we do paperwork. I get to have the opportunity for them to put the walls down and to not be afraid of another case manager. And so I'm finding that approach works and it's effective, and people are staying engaged with me a whole lot more than they would if I had not. So I just wanted to put that out there as something that is working for me, and it's helping the program at the end of the day. So
Yeah, let people tell their story. I think Carl said the same thing when he said we need to listen to people, right? We also
Yeah.
need to realize that just what you said, Yolanda, is that assessments unfold over time. And it's going to get deeper and deeper as you develop the relationship and as people are trusting. So Khadija said, and Khadija, you can feel free to say this yourself, but if we do not continue the communication, they may change their journey. That's true. It's always their journey, their dreams. Education may allow the dream to be for the long haul and not the swift. Yeah, I think that's true. Education is important, and we always want to offer people an opportunity for education, but they may not see the meaning of it until they have some experience and they realize this is what they like. So let me give you an example. Look around the room to the other case managers in rapid rehousing. How many people are in school? Just raise your hand to say if you're in school.
Let me see.
Okay. So one of the things that often happens is when people start doing case management is they figure out they like it and they go back to school so they have an opportunity to move ahead in their job. And I think that you're right, Khadija. Education allows the dream to be for the long haul, but I think people have got to solidify that dream and realize they're good at it. People like to do what they're good at and what's important to them.
Also what I think it was misinterpreted when I mentioned that they need to be educated about their dream so that they'll understand it to be for the long haul and not for the swift, like the turtle in the here. If you got a race to get rid of all your money, but if you stretch it out a little bit, this is what could happen. This is what it could look like. And maybe that will help them to see a little bit better.
That's exactly right. But it also applies to training. Sometimes training doesn't mean anything to them because they don't know if they're going to be good at the job. So if they try things that might be similar and then they make a decision to do the training, it's a whole different thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is where the MI comes in at, right? The motivational interviewing. Because I love what Khadija just said. And so for me, I'm not going to tell them what it's going to look like. I want them to tell me, so how would it look if you were to, right? And let them, because as I'm listening to Khadija, that's awesome, to hear, to hear you say that, and so if we can, again, it's getting them to, it's so important to get them to think that it's their idea.
Yes. It's absolutely true.
That is so empowering.
You guys, we're going to leave it at that. I went a minute over. I apologize, but we're good. We have communities of practice in a couple of weeks. Don't know. Yes, in January. We have after the holidays, which I'm sure you're relieved to hear. We're not doing any more of these trainings during the holidays. So, and then our next one is on mental health. Connections to mental health resources. And we're going to try to do a resource guide with the help of Demas that reflects some of the things that you guys had. Is this working for people, the resource guide stuff? Yeah. Okay. So let's make it as good as possible. But remember, there's no substitution for going out there with your card. Next time you go out to dinner, Bring that card. Thanks, you all.
Happy New
Have a
Year.
really happy
Everybody stay
holidays.
safe and healthy. Carl, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like an American Express card. Okay, thank you.